Welcome to the second part of the Noob to Pro Blender Masterclass, where we learn to combine the most useful tools in Blender to significantly speed up our modeling process. We are building a small kitchen unit, and now a window. Let's start with the window. How do I get a window exactly in the center? For that, I go into Edit mode, and when I add a loop cut, it is usually exactly in the center. I can cancel it here with a right click. Instead of adding two more loop cuts now, which would of course no longer be centered, as you can see here at the top, I can simply select this one in the center and bevel it with Ctrl B. Then it is perfectly symmetrical. You can see this in the numbers too. I intentionally have the edge lengths displayed. And then we can make a small parapet here, for example, and simply extrude it out. Now we already have this window shaft, but that is not what this is about. This is just to briefly show how we can work precisely and symmetrically with the same lengths, because we need that here too. I will isolate the kitchen unit for a moment and now go into Edit mode. I want to have subdivisions here, of course, but that does not work. I would like to cut them here. That does not work, of course, because this here at the top is not a quad, it is an engon. I need to make it a quad first. I do that by adding an edge loop here at the back, and then kind of expanding this. I have a vertex here. To do that, I need to snap it here. I do that by selecting Vertex as the snap target here at the top. And now I can snap it there while holding Control. My cursor needs to be there, then I can connect these two vertices with J. That is called Vertex Connect Path. And do the same here at the bottom. Now I can add loop cuts all the way through, but I also have one here. Now I do the same on this side. So I want to have a double cabinet here, drawers in the middle, and then two small cabinets here. Now I will add a loop cut here, cancel it with a right click, and bevel it so that the dimensions are equal. And then I will make them roughly this size. They can also be a bit smaller like this, because I think I set this one to 1.1 meters. So I will set this one to 55 centimeters. Now I want to have drawers here in the middle. If I do this now, I will mess up the entire geometry. I do not want that. So I hold Alt, click here, select the entire cabinet segment, and can separate it with Y. Make a split. When I press Y, I separate geometry. But do not do it here. That was just an example. And now, for example, if my edge loop does not let me do this because it prefers this one, we need to hide this for a moment with H. And then we can do this. But I will undo it again. First, I will cut through all segments to add a base. I select these now. I still need a base. A kitchen has a base. I will slide this down here with double G. They are all at the same height because, as I said, adding a loop cut is always in the center. So now I can hold this here and these will be my drawers. How many should I make? I will make 3. And then I can make them visible again with Alt H. For a kitchen, I would proceed like this. These will all be doors anyway. I can quickly separate them with P into their own object. Because I can also simply press Ctrl F in Edit mode and then solidify faces. But these should not go inward but outward. I quickly undo this because something just occurred to me. They are connected here. That means this will not be a single door, but a connected one. I want to separate this, so I press Y again here to make sure everything is individual. And then, to get our doors, press Ctrl F again, solidify faces, and then we get our doors. To make sure they are all facing the right direction, I go to Face Orientation here at the top. They are all facing the wrong way. I select everything, press Alt-N, and go to Flip Normals. Now we have our doors, which are all still a bit too large. They are already touching each other here. They all need to be a little smaller. So I do not have to select each edge individually now. I need to think for a moment. There is Shift-G, select similar. And then we can go to normal, which is the direction the face is pointing. But the problem is, this would be correct here, for example, if I then push it in with shrink fatten, but it will be bad here. So I will first hide these, pointing to another side with H. I select it directly like this. And if I now press Shift-G and then go to normal, exactly these here are all selected. Exactly what I want, and I can now push this in a bit with Alt-S. It is best to check the value here at the top so we can do the same for the others. So, and then the same here. Now these can go. But this one generally has to be done individually. I get to exactly the same value, but it is close enough. And this one, as I said, individually. And since they are still touching here, I will now only select these sides. We can separate each of these bodies here. I will briefly separate the bottom here, and then select more with Ctrl Numpad Plus. Separate it again with Y. I will isolate exactly this for a moment, and then I will give the kitchen a proper body. The easiest way is to select this here at the top and copy it down. We still have our vertex snap on, so we can snap this here to this corner. But it needs to be flipped again with Alt-N flip. Select everything and then press M and do merge by distance. Because these things are still separate here. But I actually do not want this. They should be connected. But I will separate it again. But this time, segment by segment, not face by face. And then I will hide every other one, so I have a better overview here. I now add the side walls of the cabinets. And we can do this by selecting an edge here, and then simply pressing F. Blender fills it, and that is how we get all our bodies. Although, with a part like this, it is usually open here, right? We need to delete the face, of course, not the vertex. In any case, we can select this here at the bottom and also push it in again with Alt-S, but enable even thickness here. Then press Ctrl-L so that all this here is selected, and then I invert the selection, press Ctrl-F, and then solidify. But this time in the other direction. So now we basically have our kitchen, but I notice that this one here could be a bit problematic. We need more boards here, of course. I will just take this here at the bottom, copy it up, make it thick, and then we need to see where it goes. Of course, best here, and one thing you must not forget at all is the countertop. I will take these faces, extrude them upward, then press Ctrl-L again for Select Linked. So everything that is selected and connected will be completely selected. And then I press M and do Merge by Distance. But although it connected the things, there are still faces in the middle here that now exist because of the solidify. They were all separate, so faces have been created here and they need to be deleted. You have to remember that as I said, when I separate these things, the faces are also separate. If I apply a solidify to them, I get this problem. What would work alternatively is to merge them beforehand. Then you do not need to delete the ones in the middle because there is no loose edge, but it is connected. So then quickly select this here while holding Control and do another shrink fatten, but with even thickness. And that is basically how you already have your kitchen. You can also select this here if you want, and make this a bit thicker too. And the genius thing is, with the same workflow and tools, if you want to have a special style here, you can simply select these faces. I will quickly turn off the edge length here, so it does not confuse us. And then we can also make our panels here, so we can do an inset here. Then press E. Of course, it goes completely in the wrong direction. That is why we have shrink fatten. Then another inset. Then press E, right-click to cancel. Then another shrink fatten inward. Be careful not to come out on the other side. Then one more inset, and we push this out again with Alt-S. A bit boring here still, but you see the idea. If we now simply press Ctrl+ on the numpad until we get here. Now I can select this edge using Select Loops, Boundary of Selected, on all of them at the same time. And then we can bevel them with Ctrl-B, and this time also use a bevel for what a bevel is actually intended for. And of course, we can massively scroll here to get multiple segments. I will set this to 13 here. And then we can select this preset here under Profile Type Custom. And for example, here we can also press Ctrl+ again. If I now select Boundary of Selected, and if I want to round this off now, this here is in my way because if I round this off here, it does not look very good. What you can do is simply press Ctrl+ again until this here in the middle is also selected. And now we can press Ctrl-. Now it selects less here only. If I do this now, it selects less on both sides. It does this until the selection is completely closed here. And now I can use Boundary of Selected again, which I have added to my quick favorites. What you can do is right-click on it, and then you will have Add to Quick Favorites. For me, it is already in there. That is why it is not there anymore. And then I can bevel this. And this is how you can build a nice, quick, neoclassical kitchen, among other things. And all this without constantly having to select a lot or anything like that. Some would now tell you to select this and select that again and do this for every single part, which is of course complete nonsense. I hope this was helpful, and I see you on the next part, where we build a classical bay window and go deeper into the same tools we use now. Thanks for watching.